You got license and registration right here?
Yeah, it's in the glove box. Look, man, I told you I was just heading home.
Trunk's open. Keep your hands where I can see them.
I'm not touching nothing.
You want to tell me why you got all this back here?
All what? It's closed, man. That's it. You see something else?
Clear as day.
There's no bag. Look, nothing.
The arrest started clean. A traffic stop on an empty road. One suspect. One officer. One camera. But then something happened that no one could explain. Officer Ramirez opened the suspect's trunk, leaned inside for 5 seconds, and stood back up empty-handed. The camera caught everything, except what was inside. Later, the evidence report listed a bag of narcotics. But in the footage, the bag never appeared. No sound of it being logged, no shot of it in frame. It was there, then it wasn't. The footage glitched once for less than half a second. When Internal Affairs slowed it down frame by frame, the timestamp jumped forward 12 seconds. Someone had cut something out. The question wasn't what disappeared, it was who deleted it. Officer Javier Ramirez had run the same stretch of County Road 12 for 6 years. The route was routine, the stops repetitive, and the nights long. He liked it that way, predictable, controlled, quiet. On this one, a silver compact sedan drifted across the line twice. No speed violation, but enough for a stop. He hit the lights, activated his Bodycam, and eased onto the shoulder behind the car. The red-blue glow flashed against the wet asphalt. Dispatch, 214. Traffic stop. County 12 near Ridgeway. One occupant. Copy 214. Log time, 22:48. Ramirez stepped out. Rain started as mist, then grew heavier. He approached the driver's side. The window rolled down. A man in his 30s looked up, hands on the wheel. Calm, not nervous. "Evening, sir," Ramirez said. "Know why I stopped you?" The man shook his head. "You crossed the center line twice back there." "Was reaching for my coffee," the man replied. "Didn't think it was that serious." Ramirez leaned closer. "License and registration." The man handed them over. Everything matched. Local address. Clean record. Ramirez glanced into the car. Fast food wrappers, an open duffel bag on the back seat, gym clothes spilling out. Nothing unusual, but then the smell hit him. Not smoke. Not alcohol. Sharp, chemical, faint. "What's that smell?" he asked. The man hesitated. "Cleaning stuff." "I work maintenance." Ramirez nodded but didn't buy it. "Sit tight." He walked back to his cruiser, called dispatch again. Hacked to base, run a check on a Daniel Rios. License number 529. He read it off, waited. The rain tapped harder against the windshield. Copy that, 214. No warrants. Prior misdemeanor for trespassing. Cleared in 2016. Ramirez watched the car's silhouette through the mirror. The driver wasn't moving. Hands stayed on the wheel. Good. Still something felt off. He keyed the mic again. "Dispatch, can you send a backup? Might need a vehicle search." "Copy. Unit 317 en route." 5 minutes later, headlights appeared behind him. Officer Kellum pulled up, stepped out, and nodded through the rain. "What you got?" he asked. "Guy says he's maintenance. Something smells off. Chemical." Kellum sniffed the air. "Yeah, I catch that. Want me to cover?" Ramirez nodded. They approached together. "Mr. Rios," Ramirez said. "Mind stepping out for a quick chat?" Rios hesitated but opened the door. "What's this about?" "Standard procedure. Need to check something inside your vehicle." He stepped out, hands visible, posture tense. "You got a warrant?" Rios asked. "Probable cause," Ramirez said. "You're not under arrest." Kellum moved to the passenger side while Ramirez opened the driver's door wider and leaned in. "Anything in the car I should know about?" "No." "Trunk unlocked?" "Yeah, but there's nothing there." Ramirez popped it open. The hinge squeaked. The trunk was dark. He leaned closer, shining his flashlight inside. Then something caught the light. Plastic, dull green, half buried under a blanket. "What's this?" he muttered. He pulled the blanket aside, revealing a small sealed bag. Rios stiffened. "That's not mine." Ramirez turned to Kellum. "Bag it." Kellum reached for his phone, but the screen glitched as he turned the camera. The cruiser's dash cam flickered too. "The storm, maybe." Ramirez pulled the bag out, holding it up. It was labeled with no markings. Then, a short static burst hit his body cam. Screen white. Audio distortion. Ramirez. Kellum's voice cut through. Yeah, he said, blinking. Lost video for a second. He reset the feed. The timer jumped from 22:51 to 23:03. 12 seconds gone. He didn't notice until later. For now, he sealed the bag in evidence paper, tagged it, and radioed dispatch, 14 to base. One suspect detained. Possible narcotics. Copy, 2-14. Log evidence for transport. They cuffed Rios, read him his rights, and placed him in the cruiser. Rios didn't resist, didn't speak, just watched the rain run down the window. At the station, Ramirez filled out the incident report. Routine language. Probable cause, voluntary consent, evidence secured. But when he reviewed the footage before submission, something froze him. The bag wasn't there. The bodycam showed him lifting the blanket, looking inside, then a jump. The next frame showed him turning away from an empty trunk. No bag. No sound. He scrubbed backward. Same glitch. Same missing moment. He tried again. Same thing. The evidence tag in his hand said, Item Shearhor Fort 23A. The physical bag was sealed in the locker. But on video? Nothing. Kellum entered the report room drying his hair with a towel. Everything good? Check your cam, Ramirez said. Kellum frowned. Why? Something's wrong with mine. They synced the feeds on the monitor. Both showed the same jump. A missing 12 seconds. Kellum frowned deeper. You think it corrupted? It's not a glitch. The timestamp jumps. Who edited it? Ramirez didn't answer. They took it to the evidence technician. The tech plugged the drive in, ran diagnostics, and looked at them. It wasn't corrupted, he said. Someone trimmed it manually. Manually? Yeah, there's a gap in the metadata. Deleted frame sequence. Ramirez felt his chest tighten. From where? Direct upload station. Your unit, my cruiser? The tech nodded. Looks like the cut happened between transfer and sync. That was impossible. Ramirez had uploaded it himself, watched the progress bar finish. Who accessed it? He asked. The tech hesitated. System shows one override code. Whose? He read it off the screen. Admin Lieutenant C. Harris. Kellum exhaled. Harris? Why would he touch your footage? Ramirez stared at the monitor. That's what we're about to find out. Lieutenant Harris's office was quiet. Blinds half closed. The smell of burnt coffee filled the air. He looked up as they entered. Evening, Ramirez. Kellum, something wrong with your report? Ramirez kept his voice steady. Someone deleted 12 seconds from my body cam footage. Harris leaned back. That right? Yes, sir. System log says it was you. He smiled faintly. Then the system's wrong. The tech verified the override. Probably a sync error. Ramirez took a step closer. It's not a sync error when it shows your credentials. Harris's tone shifted. Watch your tone, officer. Kellum tried to step in. We just want to know what happened, sir. What happened, Harris said, is that your footage was flagged for review because it showed a possible procedural violation. So I reviewed it. That's my job. And deleted 12 seconds? Ramirez asked. I didn't delete anything. Ramirez didn't blink. Then where's the evidence? Harris's eyes hardened. You're tired, son. Go home, write your report. Leave the rest to me. Ramirez didn't move. Dismissed, Harris said, voice flat. They left, but the silence between them carried weight. In the hallway, Kellum whispered, You think he's covering? Ramirez didn't answer. He walked to the evidence locker, signed out the bag, and checked the tag again. Same code, same seal, but the contents looked different. The powder inside had shifted color, from pale gray to faint yellow. He checked the timestamp on the tag. Logged 23:29. He hadn't logged it. He'd handed it over at 23:20. Someone had re-tagged the evidence after he left. That night he drove home with the dash cam still recording. His radio was off. No music. No chatter. Halfway down County 12, a black SUV appeared in his rearview mirror. No lights, no turn signals. Keeping distance, he turned off onto a side road. The SUV followed. He pulled into an empty gas station and stopped under the light. The SUV slowed, then rolled past without stopping. He sat there for 5 minutes, heart hammering. Then he keyed his recorder. "This is Officer Ramirez, badge 2x14. If something happens to me, check the evidence log for item 4423A. The footage was edited. The timestamp jump isn't a malfunction. He ended the recording, stored it separately, and drove home. In the rear view, the same SUV turned off the next intersection and disappeared. At 1:32 a.m., a notification pinged his phone. Bodycam file deleted from secure archive. He stared at it, frozen. Then another message appeared. Evidence. What evidence? No sender ID. No trace. He leaned back in his chair, the glow of the screen lighting his face. Somewhere inside the department, someone was erasing proof faster than he could find it, but they'd made one mistake. He still had the offline copy, and he wasn't done yet. The next morning started like any other, except it wasn't. The station buzzed with whispers before sunrise. Officer Ramirez's shift wasn't supposed to start until 8, but he was already sitting in his cruiser outside, engine off, staring at the Bodycam drive in his hand. It was small, scratched, stamped with the department serial number. Official property. But the copy on it wasn't official anymore. He'd cloned the data last night, seconds before the upload finished. He'd never done that before. It wasn't protocol. It wasn't safe. But something told him that if he didn't, the footage would vanish. And now it had. The archived file was gone. The report was under review. His evidence tag didn't match, and someone had used his superior's login to delete 12 seconds. He wasn't dealing with a mistake. This was deliberate. He took a deep breath, tucked the drive into his vest pocket, and walked into the building. Inside, the air smelled like burned coffee and printer toner. Officers passed him without eye contact. Kellum wasn't at his desk. The wall clock ticked too loud. Every sound in the station felt heavier than usual. He sat down, logged into the report terminal, and opened his queue. The incident file from last night was already marked Pending Review, Supervisor Access Only. Locked. Then his phone buzzed. Text from Kellum. Meet outside. Don't talk inside. He closed the terminal and walked out the back door. Kellum was waiting by his cruiser, cigarette lit, eyes scanning the lot. "You weren't supposed to come in yet," he said. "Something's wrong with the file," Ramirez replied. "I know. Harris locked it at 4 a.m. Internal Affairs already has it." "Already?" Ramirez asked. That was fast. Too fast. Kellum dropped the cigarette, crushed it under his boot. "IA wants you in conference too. They called it a preliminary compliance check. That means interrogation. Yeah, Harris set it up." Ramirez's jaw tightened. "He's covering his tracks." Kellum glanced at the building. "You still have your copy?" Ramirez nodded. "Good, don't say a word about it in there. If they think you backed up the footage, you'll lose that too." Ramirez hesitated. "Who's heading IA now?" "Lieutenant Croft, Harris's old partner." That sealed it. Conference room 2 smelled like disinfectant and nerves. 2 chairs, 1 camera on the ceiling, 1 microphone on the table. Lieutenant Croft sat waiting, gray suit, no smile. Harris stood by the window, arms folded. "Morning, Officer Ramirez," Croft said. "Have a seat." Ramirez sat, eyes forward. Croft pressed record on a small device. "We're conducting an administrative review of an incident involving a potential evidence discrepancy. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir. You logged an item labeled 4423A, correct?" "Yes. That item is currently under forensic review. But there's a gap in your footage, 12 seconds missing. Any idea how that happened?" Ramirez kept his tone neutral. "The file shows an edit." "Not from my end," Harris cut in. "That's not what the system shows." "With respect, sir, the metadata says otherwise." Croft raised a brow. "Metadata?" The cut wasn't corruption. It was manual. The technician confirmed it. Croft leaned forward. "You have a statement from that technician?" "Not in writing." "Then it's hearsay." Harris stepped closer. We checked the sync logs. You accessed your own footage twice after upload. You could have altered it, Ramirez frowned. I reviewed it once before filing. Logs show 2 sessions. I didn't, Croft interrupted. We'll determine that. For now, your report is suspended pending investigation. Hand over your badge and body cam. Ramirez froze. Suspended? Administrative leave, effective immediately. He looked between them. For reviewing my own footage? Croft didn't answer. Harris smirked. Ramirez unpinned his badge and placed it on the table. The sound echoed. You'll be notified once IA completes their analysis, Croft said. Harris added, Don't discuss the case with anyone. Ramirez stood, nodded once, and walked out without a word. The hallway outside felt colder than the rain outside. He drove home without turning the radio on. The copy of the footage sat in his pocket, small and silent. Every instinct screamed to destroy it, but every part of him knew it was his only proof. When he got home, he booted up his old laptop, one that wasn't linked to the department network, and connected the drive. The file loaded slow, frame by frame. The missing gap was obvious. He paused, scrolled backward, and froze the last frame before the cut. He saw his hand reaching toward the blanket. The bag's edge reflected light, then static. He zoomed in on the last visible pixel before the frame vanished. The bag wasn't empty. There was a corner of something else inside, a piece of paper. He enhanced the still, and though it was blurred, one thing was visible, a printed label. Not from a drug bag, but from the evidence room. He paused. That meant the evidence was already tagged before he found it. Someone had planted it. He played the clip again. Before the white flash, a shadow moved in the corner. Another flashlight beam, lower, thinner. Not his, not Kellum's. Someone else had been there. He called Kellum. Yeah? Meet me in an hour. Somewhere quiet. Where? The old boatyard. Kellum paused. You're serious? Bring your cam drive. The line went dead. Ramirez packed the copy, wrapped it in plastic, and left. The boatyard was abandoned for years, half-flooded, forgotten. He parked between rusted trailers. The wind whistled through empty hulls. Kellum arrived 10 minutes later, his headlights cutting through the fog. You want to tell me what this is? He asked. Stepping out, Ramirez handed him the drive. Watch it. Kellum plugged it into his tablet, fast-forwarded, then froze when he saw the shadow. That's not us, he said. No, Ramirez replied. Someone was there before we opened the trunk. Who'd have access to the scene? Only someone from the department. Kellum frowned. You think Harris set you up? He deleted 12 seconds for a reason. He didn't want that light seen. Kellum's expression hardened. What's your plan? I'm not letting them bury me. We take this to someone outside. State investigator. Media, if we have to. That's a risk. It's the only move left. Kellum exhaled. Then we need more proof. The bag, the tag, and the timestamp don't match. If we find the original tag, we can show it was switched. Ramirez nodded. We'll need to get into evidence without triggering logs. That's suicide. Ramirez stared at him. We'll do it clean. That night, after midnight, they returned to the station. Off duty. Civilian clothes. No lights. Kellum handled the cameras, looping the feed from earlier that day. Ramirez used his access card, still active until morning. They slipped inside the evidence storage room. Rows of numbered lockers filled the walls. Each tag hung in perfect order. Ramirez moved straight to the narcotics section. Locker 31. He entered the code. The lock clicked. Inside, sealed and labeled, was bag 4423A. It looked identical. Same seal, same signature. But when he held it under the light, the ink on the date stamp bled slightly. He peeled back the label. Underneath, faint but still legible, was another tag. Different ID. An 3987C, filed 2 weeks earlier. He froze. This isn't mine. Kellum's eyes widened. They recycled an old seizure. Swapped labels. Ramirez took photos. That's proof. A sound echoed down the hall. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. They ducked behind a row of lockers. The footsteps stopped near the door. Then a key turned. The light flickered on. Lieutenant Harris stepped in. He looked directly at the locker Ramirez had opened. "Thought so," he muttered. He pulled his phone out and took a picture. Then, without noticing them, he whispered into it. "They took the bait." Ramirez's pulse slammed in his chest. They hadn't been hunting him. They'd been setting a trap. Harris turned toward the door, but before he could leave, a sound echoed from Kellum's pocket. His radio. A single burst of static. Harris froze. "Who's there?" Ramirez whispered, "Run!" Kellum bolted for the exit. Ramirez right behind him. Harris shouted, "Security!" The alarms went off. Red lights filled the hallway. Doors began to lock one by one. They reached the back exit seconds before it sealed. Kellum shoved it open with his shoulder, tearing the hinge. They ran into the rain, breath steaming, soaked through. Behind them, Harris's voice yelled into the storm. "You're done, Ramirez." Ramirez didn't stop. "No, you are." Back in the car, Ramirez uploaded the photos to a hidden drive. Then he sent one message to an encrypted address, an investigative journalist he trusted. The subject line was simple. Evidence swap. 4E4-23A. He attached the files, added one line of text. "If anything happens to me, release this footage." He hit send outside. The rain fell harder. Inside, the truth had already started spreading, and the department had no idea. The next day brought silence. Heavy, deliberate, and wrong. Officer Ramirez's phone stayed dark all morning. No calls from Kellum. No pings from Internal Affairs. Not even a departmental alert. The system was frozen, like someone had hit pause on the entire precinct. He sat in his car across from City Hall, waiting for a sign. Rain pooled on the windshield, the wipers motionless. The laptop on the passenger seat blinked once, then loaded an email. Unknown sender. No subject, no text. Just one attachment. Frame 402, PNG. He hesitated, checked the metadata. The timestamp matched the 12-second gap from his Bodycam footage. The missing part. He opened it. The image was grainy, stretched by compression. But the details were clear enough to make his stomach drop. It showed the inside of the trunk, his flashlight beam, the edge of the bag, and behind it, a gloved hand that wasn't his. A black sleeve with a gold stripe near the cuff. Command uniform. It wasn't Harris. Harris wore plain black. This was higher rank. Ramirez zoomed in until the pixels blurred. A patch near the wrist came into focus. Internal Affairs Division. Someone from IA had been on scene before the report even existed. He sat still for a full minute, breathing slow, eyes locked on the image. This was no longer about a bad stop. It was an operation, a setup. He pulled out his phone and called Kellum again, straight to voicemail. Then, from behind, a knock on the window. Ramirez jumped. A man in a gray overcoat stood there, holding up an ID badge. State seal. Department of Justice emblem. Ramirez cracked the window an inch. "Who are you?" "Special Agent Darren Cole," the man said. "We need to talk." Ramirez hesitated. "About what?" Cole's tone didn't waver. "About what you sent to the journalist last night." The cold inside the car turned colder. He opened the door. They sat in a diner 2 blocks away. Neutral ground. Cole ordered black coffee. Didn't drink it. "You're in trouble, officer," he said flatly. "But not for the reason you think." "I didn't leak classified material." "No, you leaked evidence under a federal corruption probe." Ramirez blinked. "What probe?" Cole opened a folder. Inside were photographs, surveillance stills, digital timestamps. Reports marked confidential. Every one of them showed officers Ramirez knew. Harris, Lieutenant Croft, and 3 others from IA, Cole said. "We've been tracking an internal evidence laundering network for 8 months. They plant, seize, and resell narcotics through third-party intermediaries. Your footage caught the transfer mid-process." Ramirez's throat tightened. "Then why suspend me?" "Because Harris found out you backed up the footage. He needed you off the board." Cole slid a document across the table. It was an affidavit. Unsigned. You're the only one with first-hand proof. But if you want to stay breathing, you'll work with us. Ramirez glanced at the page. You want me to testify? Eventually. For now, you go back in, quiet, act compliant. Don't let them know we spoke. He shook his head. They've already burned me. Cole leaned forward. You still have your copy? Yes, keep it hidden. That's the only thing keeping you alive. He slid a burner phone across the table. If you see Harris again, record everything. Every word. Ramirez pocketed the phone. What about Kellum? Cole's eyes narrowed. That's the other thing. He didn't make it home last night. Ramirez froze. What do you mean? His car was found by the river, empty. Ramirez felt the weight in his chest shift into ice. Cole stood, dropped a bill on the table. Stay off department channels. Someone's watching the logs. He left without another word. Ramirez sat there for a long time, staring at the door. Then he reached into his pocket, felt the smooth edge of the flash drive, and knew what he had to do. That night, he went back to the precinct. Not inside, just close enough to watch. From across the street, he could see through the glass lobby. 2 men at the desk. One of them Harris. The other, Croft. They looked relaxed, laughing. A small black evidence bag sat on the counter between them. He zoomed in with his phone camera. The tag read 44223A, the same bag. Again. He hit record. The phone caught it all. Harris signing the form, Croft sealing the bag into a courier case, and a uniformed officer walking it to the garage. He followed from a distance, keeping to the shadows. The courier loaded the case into the back of an unmarked SUV. The license plate was state-issued, Internal Affairs Transport. Ramirez took a picture of the plate, then watched the SUV pull out of the lot and head east. Toward the evidence warehouse, he got in his car and followed. The drive took 20 minutes. The SUV turned off onto an industrial road lined with silent warehouses. Ramirez killed his lights and coasted behind, half a block back. The SUV stopped at a side entrance, the driver scanned a card, and the gate rolled open. Ramirez parked by the fence. The wind carried the smell of rain and metal. He climbed over the chain-link fence, dropped onto the other side, and crouched low. The warehouse door was half open. Light flickered inside. He crept closer. Voices carried through the space. Harris's voice first. This bag better not show up again. Then Croft. The old tag was burned. IA logs are clean. Good, Harris said. Once the feds close the case, we're clear. Ramirez inched forward until he could see through a gap in the door. Inside, 2 men stood near a table stacked with sealed evidence bags. Harris held one, knife in hand, cutting open the seam. White powder spilled out. He scooped some into a smaller bag, resealed it with a fresh tag, and tossed the original into a metal bin marked Disposal. Croft spoke quietly. You sure about the kid? Halter. No, Ramirez. Harris's eyes hardened. He's done. If he talks, we'll release the footage of him planting it. Ramirez clenched his jaw. They made a fake version. He pulled out his phone and started recording. The camera focused on Harris's face, the knife, the drugs, the falsified tags. Then, his shoe scraped the concrete. The sound was small, but enough. Croft looked up. What was that? Harris turned toward the door. Someone's here. Ramirez backed away fast, slipped around the corner. Footsteps followed. He sprinted to the fence, climbed fast, boots scraping metal. A shout echoed. Stop! A gunshot cracked the night. The round hit the fence inches from his hand. He dropped to the other side, landed hard, rolled, and ran. He dove into his car, engine roaring to life. In the rearview mirror, Harris stood by the fence, gun raised, shouting into his radio. Ramirez floored it. He drove until the highway signs blurred. His heart pounded in his ears. The footage was safe, saved automatically to the cloud on the burner phone. Cole would have it by now. His phone buzzed once. Unknown number. Text only. Keep driving. We have eyes on them. You're clear for now. See. He slowed, exhaled, hands gripping the wheel. Kellum was gone. IA was burning evidence. But the story was no longer hidden. The files were out. The feds had proof. Still, he knew what that meant. Internal affairs wouldn't stop. They'd come for him next. He pulled into a deserted rest stop, headlights off, engine running. Rain started again, soft at first, then steady. He leaned back in the seat, watching it streak down the windshield. Somewhere out there, someone was still cleaning the department's mess. But, for the first time, they weren't the only ones holding the footage, and if they wanted to silence him, they'd have to erase the truth from every frame that existed. But this time, the camera wasn't his, it was theirs, and it was already recording. The rain had stopped by the time Officer Ramirez reached the safe house. Lights dimmed, no sound but the hum of the refrigerator. Inside, Special Agent Cole was waiting. 2 laptops, a printer, and a stack of folders filled the table. It looked more like a tactical command post than a living space. "You made it," Cole said, eyes scanning the encrypted files Ramirez had just uploaded. "Good. You got the footage?" "Yes, full copy. 12 missing seconds intact. Plus the photos from the warehouse." Cole nodded, impressed. "Then it's time." "We go public." "Public?" Ramirez asked, tension gripping his chest. "You mean the press?" "Yes, and internal investigation, both. The Department of Justice is ready to act. But you'll testify first." He swallowed hard. "They'll come for me. Harris, Croft, everyone involved. That's why we moved fast. We'll protect you. Witness protection if necessary. But if we delay, they destroy everything. The evidence, the cloud backups, the originals, gone." Ramirez nodded. "Then let's do it." Cole handed him a folder. Inside were copies of his Bodycam footage, the 12-second missing frames, photographs of the bag swap, and the warehouse recordings. "You'll testify that everything is authentic," Cole explained. "The chain of custody violations, the deleted footage, the planted evidence, everything, no editing. Just the truth." Ramirez flipped through the files. Every detail confirmed what he had feared. Internal Affairs wasn't policing the department. They were running a criminal operation inside it. The next morning, the press conference was set in a neutral government building. Reporters crowded the room. Cameras, microphones, and blinking lights filled every corner. Ramirez stood behind the podium with Agent Cole and 2 federal investigators. He gripped the folder containing the full Bodycam copy, the evidence, and warehouse photographs. Cole stepped forward. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we are disclosing significant misconduct within the City Police Department. Officer Ramirez has provided video evidence showing deliberate deletion, evidence tampering, and abuse of authority." The reporters leaned forward. Clicks and flashes filled the room. Ramirez took a deep breath. "I am Officer Javier Ramirez. I recorded a traffic stop in which evidence was unlawfully planted and then altered by Internal Affairs. The missing footage was manually deleted. The evidence tags were switched. The operations were part of an internal scheme to manipulate case outcomes for officers under investigation." The room went silent. No interruptions. Ramirez kept his voice steady. He continued. "The 12-second gap in my footage reveals the planting of narcotics that were logged under a previous case number. Lieutenant Harris and Lieutenant Croft were directly involved in moving and altering evidence. Photographs and surveillance from last night confirm these actions." He paused. His fingers tightened around the folder. "I will submit all copies to the Department of Justice. Every frame, every tag, every recording. And I will testify in court about what I witnessed and what was deleted." Hours later, the department issued a statement. It was weak, perfunctory, and defensive. "The City Police Department acknowledges the allegations. An internal investigation has been initiated. No further comment is available." But the public reaction was immediate. Social media exploded. Citizens demanded accountability. News outlets broadcast frame-by-frame analysis of Ramirez's footage. Harris and Croft were placed on administrative leave pending federal investigation. For the first time, the internal manipulation was exposed, and the department's credibility took a massive hit. Weeks passed. Ramirez worked with federal investigators, providing interviews, copies of footage, and verified statements from witnesses, including Kellum's recovery story. Kellum had been found alive, hiding with federal protection after being targeted the night Ramirez had recorded the warehouse. He returned to assist Ramirez in corroborating details. The trial was swift. The evidence was irrefutable. Photos, videos, timestamps, eyewitness accounts all lined up perfectly. Internal affairs officers faced charges ranging from obstruction of justice to evidence tampering. Harris's defense crumbled. Croft pleaded guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. Both were removed from the force permanently. Ramirez was reinstated with full honors. The department, now under a temporary federal oversight board, instituted stricter chain-of-custody protocols, bodycam audits, and automatic encrypted backups for all evidence. He walked the precinct floors again, badge pinned firmly. His uniform felt heavier now, not just with authority but with accountability. He no longer relied on routine. He relied on vigilance. Cole approached him quietly. "You did more than follow protocol. You stopped a network of corruption." Ramirez shook his head. "No, the footage did. I just refused to ignore it. Either way," Cole said, "people will know the truth." That night, Ramirez returned home. The city lights glimmered through the rain-streaked window. He placed the Bodycam drive on the shelf next to his badge. It was proof, legacy, and warning all in one. He opened his laptop and started typing a report, not for internal affairs, not for the department, but a detailed account for public release. Every file, every timestamp, every deleted second would be documented and archived for anyone to access in the future. His phone buzzed with a new message from the encrypted journalist account. "Story goes live tomorrow." They won't see it coming. Ramirez smiled faintly. He knew they'd try to push back, deny, and distract, but the evidence was intact, verified, and untouchable. The next video would show the internal memo that almost buried the case, a memo that, once released, exposed the full scale of the cover-up. Ramirez prepared it carefully. The footage that almost vanished didn't stay hidden. Officer Ramirez's actions reminded everyone that accountability doesn't disappear, even when people try to erase it. The next video will reveal the memo that internal investigators hoped would keep this story buried. And if you want a free guide on the hidden protocols officers must follow when evidence is at stake, it's linked below. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and always record the truth.